On a quiet summer morning in 1971, the United States government tried to stop the truth with ink, paper, and fear. It began not with a gunshot, but with a headline. The New York Times published a story so explosive it rattled the White House before breakfast. The words were dry, bureaucratic, almost dull. Yet behind them lay decades of deception about the Vietnam War. Secret studies, internal doubts, proof that leaders had said one thing to the public while believing another in private. The documents were called the Pentagon Papers, and they were never meant to be seen. Inside government offices, phones rang without pause. Advisors whispered, lawyers rushed. The president's aides warned that if this stood, if newspapers could print secrets like this, the nation itself might unravel. National security, they said, was on the line. Lives, alliances, authority. Across town, in the humming newsroom of the Times, editors stood their ground. The presses thudded like a heartbeat. Reporters reread paragraphs under harsh lights, knowing each sentence could bring subpoenas. Or worse. They believed the public had a right to know how decisions were made in their name, how wars were justified, how truth was bent. Then came the order. The government demanded the paper stop publishing. Immediately. For the first time in American history, the federal government sought prior restraint, an attempt to silence the press before words could reach the public. The presses froze. The story seemed to end mid-sentence, but it didn't. Another paper stepped in, then another. Newsrooms across the country joined the risk, passing documents hand to hand like contraband, racing the clock, daring the government to stop them all. What began as a leak became a national confrontation. The case surged to the Supreme Court at breakneck speed. 9 justices, no precedent like this. On one side, the full weight of executive power. On the other, the fragile promise written into the First Amendment. The courtroom was tense, almost breathless. Could a government decide what its citizens were allowed to read? Or did democracy demand exposure, even when the truth was uncomfortable? The decision came swiftly. The press won. By a narrow margin, the court ruled that the government had not met the heavy burden required to silence publication. The words rolled off the page and into history. A free press exists to serve the governed, not the governors. The Pentagon Papers did not end a war, but they changed the balance between power and truth. They reminded a nation that secrecy has limits, and that democracy depends not on silence, but on courage. If stories like this matter to you, help the channel grow. Like, share, and subscribe for more moments where history holds its breath and chooses to speak.